So you found a home you like and are trying to decide what's next. Part of writing an offer is figuring out what price you want to pay for the home, as well as what other terms you want to include in that contract. We'll jump to price first. It's the big elephant in the room. You can offer a little bit below list price, especially on a home that hasn't sold and sat on the market for a while. You can offer the listed asking price, or you can offer more. Usually if we're offering more, it is because the home is very popular. It's probably receiving multiple offers from multiple buyers, and that's one of the ways to make it more likely that your offer is accepted. We'll use something that's called an escalation clause typically, so that you are offering at the listed price, but if multiple offers come in above that listed price, your offer will beat those other offers. So your offer will escalate based on the other offers available up to a maximum so that you can beat a competing offer, but don't necessarily have to pay more than you need to purchase the home. So now that we've got price out of the way, let's talk about some of the other common offer terms. One of the big ones is earnest money, or your good faith deposit on the home. This is the money that you put forward usually in the first 2 days after getting your offer accepted, and it's shown as a deposit that you're serious about buying the home. It is refundable if you walk away based on a certain list of conditions in the offer, also called contingencies, but it can be held by the seller if you were to walk away from the contract without using one of those contingencies. Here in Washington, we're usually doing about 1 to 5% of the purchase price in earnest money. So on a $500,000 house, that might be a $5,000 to $25,000 deposit. Next, let's talk about concessions. As a buyer, a common one is closing costs, especially in a market that favors buyers over sellers, a market that's a little bit slower for sellers. Oftentimes, we'll ask sellers to cover all or part of the buyer's closing cost so that they're just paying the down payment on the purchase, not any of the fees and costs associated with buying a home and with getting a mortgage. There's also some concessions that benefit sellers. The most common one is called a rent back. If you're buying a home and selling your old home, that transition can be tough to navigate. You don't want to be stuck without a place to stay, but many people do need the money from the sale of their home to purchase a new home. One way to work around that is to sell your home with this rent back contingency or condition. And if you sell your home with a rent back, it essentially means that the buyer has agreed to allow you to stay on in your home a couple weeks or even a couple of months after closing as a tenant, so that you have the money from the sale to go home shopping, but you still have a place to stay for at least a little while you're doing that. So now that we've talked about price, earnest money, and concessions, let's talk about contingencies. A contingency is just a term of the contract that has to be completed before the contract can end and the sale can close. Usually in the sale of a home, the contingency benefits the buyer. So there's 3 big ones that you'll see commonly: the financing contingency, the appraisal contingency, and the home inspection contingency. I'll drop through those one by one. First up is the financing contingency. This protects you as the borrower if something were to change, such as a change in your credit score, or if you were to lose your job and you were not able to get that mortgage. The bank just has to write you a letter saying why they denied you, and you'll get your earnest money refunded. Second is appraisal. It's kind of similar, but it deals with the property you're purchasing instead of you as a borrower. So if the property has big repairs that the appraiser calls out, if it's worth less than you're paying for it, or if other issues come up during that appraisal, that's one of the situations where you could either renegotiate or use that appraisal contingency to walk away as a buyer and have that earnest money refunded. Those 2 are ones that you don't really have control over as a buyer, but the last one, the inspection, you do. So a lot of people think when they're doing a home inspection, they can only renegotiate or walk away if they find issues with the property. That's actually not true. The wording in the contract says that you have to be subjectively satisfied with the results of the home inspection. So even if the inspection goes perfectly, you are within your rights to ask for seller credits, to ask for a reduction in purchase price, and to even walk away from the contract entirely. For that reason, buyers love home inspection contingencies, and sellers not so much. So when we're working with sellers, oftentimes we'll do our own inspection with the seller and provide that to buyers so that they have an inspection report and they can waive that contingency. That way we know when we're accepting their offer that they won't just get cold feet and walk away. There are lots of other contingencies and concessions you can include in a purchase and sale agreement, which is why it's so important to work with a good agent. If you have goals that you're trying to achieve or a unique situation, we're usually able to come up with contract terms that help you achieve them. Those are the 3 big ones, but feel free to reach out to me if you have a specific scenario, and I'm happy to come up with more options for you. Peace.